What's up, traders? I wanted to do an end of day recap today as I called out some of what happened today live on ASFX TV this morning. And I just want to cover what happened as well as, just a little bit of forward looking analysis going into NVIDIA's earnings tonight. So, just to recap where we are on ES, we rejected 6100 last week for the third time, third major time, and continued to sell off Friday, Monday, and Tuesday as well, even yesterday. So today I was anticipating a bit of a short squeeze at the open, considering we have the yearly opening range at 54, and we have a clear stop level at the most recent structure at 34. So 20-point difference. And we got this really nice wick to the downside that cleared 10 points out lower than this last structure. So I'm assuming that anybody who's in a short-term long now is probably out of their trade, either for a break even or a small loss. So there's still plenty of room to the downside, but when we're looking at it from a push and pull perspective, when we have this much push to the downside, or actually it would be to here, when we have that much push to the downside, we're going to get some bounce. But it's really important to note that we take the escalator down and the stairs up, basically. So this is just a sharp move down, and we're trying to get back up. However, we don't always have the legs for that. So going back to the 15-minute, where I had some calls this morning, was I thought, since we're nice and bullish in pre-market, if we look here on electronic trading hours, we're bullish in the pre-market. And that led me to believe that we might have some legs to get up to 60.31, and because 60.31 is the start of year VWAP. So we end up making it right to 60.24 and then slowly fall off. But this was kind of a technical day in that we were very bullish at the open, almost overly bullish. When we don't get pullbacks that sustain and touch the New York VWAP, that's telling me we're overextended on the day. So what ended up happening is we did break IB high, but we weren't able to sustain above IB high. When you see this kind of consolidation up there, we normally are going to be pushing about 0.2% outside of the range. Now, if we also just add on here the volume, the session volume, that was a good indicator to use today, because if we go to the 15-minute chart, you can see we had multiple different kinds of catalysts today to help us get to the downside. If we can see at the open, the majority is green. We're bullish volume. But then as we trickle into the afternoon session, we just start to get an immense amount of bearish volume. And it was actually before the Trump tariff news that we started to turn more bearish, because we can see at 9:30, that's when the news was announced. But before 9:30, at 9 o'clock, that was when we started to hear, or the market started to tell us that it might want to sell off a little bit. So then going back to the 1-minute chart, we can see, I'm just trying to take that volume off. Okay. On the 1-minute chart, we can see that we just failed to break for new highs after we broke the initial balance. And then right here was when Trump announced that we were going to have tariffs on the EU. Again, tariff news in the market is not bullish. It is bearish, because it's going to cost US companies more money. And I called it out in the live chat that previous day VWAP was the last level of support. Buyers were either going to be able to defend this level, and we were going to chop going into earnings, or we were going to take this level and continue this short-term downtrend. Because if we look at this, the reality is we're just making lower highs, and this is just another lower high in the short-term downtrend. However, if you're just zoomed in on the 1-minute, it looks very bullish and it looks like it's going to be a great day. Delta was at 17K. That is not a number we see very often. But as we can see, we sold off, and I think we're really just waiting for the NVIDIA earnings tonight. Now, I'll go out here to the 1-hour chart. because this is another important level. So we have these equal lows here. We can see this wick. You can see those two wicks line up with each other, and those were swept on the candles yesterday. We took out those lows. So that's another important stop loss level that got invalidated. And then we tapped into the PPI gap from January 14th. So this is only 80 points lower to fill that gap. If we don't know what's going to happen with NVIDIA earnings, I'm going to take a guess and say that they're going to beat forecast, to beat expectations, but that does not mean the market's going to rally. It could already be priced in that they were going to beat expectations, and we might want to come down to 120, so that people can start funneling their money back into NVIDIA. Clearly, people are struggling to buy up here. It's if we think about the auction theory, there's not as many buyers up here as there were down in the 80s and the hundreds. So that's just important to note. And I think really what happens this tonight actually with NVIDIA is really going to determine, are we going to want to continue this short-term downtrend, or are we going to stay stuck in this range? Because you can see it's a pretty ugly range from 6,100 to 5,900. So it's about a 200-point range that we've been stuck in for a couple months now. So we'll come back to this tomorrow and see what happens.